Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Chasing Poker Greatness with your host, Brad Wilson.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, Coach Brad Wilson, the founder of ChasingPokerGreatness.com, and today's guest has $4.7 million in live MTT cashes, including a $1.9 million victory at the 2016 Five Diamond Poker Classic, the one and only James Romero. James is a giant in the world of poker and a force at every single table he sits down at. Despite his poker accolades, James lives a low-key, chill lifestyle while finding joy in helping those around him. In today's very special Round 2 conversation, you're going to learn how Isaac Barron and Mike Timex McDonald, two titans in the online poker world, influenced James's early poker career, the value and importance of networking in poker, how Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are things you must familiarize yourself with if you want to make it in the poker world, and much, much more. And as a heads up, James is also going to drop greatness bombs on how you can manufacture big MTT scores, as well as share his opinion on the future of online poker. So without any further ado, I bring to you my conversation with one of the most elite professional poker players in the entire Milky Way galaxy, James Romero. James, welcome back to the show, man. How you been?
Hello. Nice to talk to you again. Had a good show the first time. It's about a year ago, I think. Probably about a year ago.
Yeah, something like that. I know you mentioned in our pre-CPG conversation that you haven't really been playing much poker in the past 6 months. So let's give the listener a little bit update of what you've been doing.
Yeah, so I'm still involved in the community. I still talk to all the high stakes pros and more of a liquidity provider now. I'm just helping people get money on different sites, and some of the sites in America are taking off. So yeah, kind of working with my network and on different behind the scenes things. Yeah, that's it. And I haven't been grinding really, and also working a lot with crypto and Bitcoin. But yeah, that's it.
So why haven't you been grinding?
I did very well for myself over the past year with Bitcoin, and I don't feel the need to grind out a smaller hourly. I'm also very bullish on the future of crypto. I have quite a large bankroll, and I don't think I can beat the 25Ks online and the 10Ks and the high rollers. And the medium stake stuff doesn't really interest me.
Okay,
so that's why.
So basically, you need to light the fire to start tackling the 10Ks and 25Ks if you're going to go for it.
Pretty much, if I'm going to play online, I want to play the highest stakes, and I don't think that hourly is there for me.
Cool, man. What about live poker? It's getting ready to...
Yeah, when live poker comes back, for sure, I'm going to be firing. It's a completely different animal. I'm going to Seminole here in 2 weeks for the Hard Rock Series. I'm sure I'll play a lot in Vegas. There's tons of fish, and the regs aren't as good as the high rollers online. Yeah,
for sure. When something is geo-fenced in, the competition level just kind of drops because... online, anybody can fire up from wherever they're at, but not everybody's going to fly to Florida.
Exactly. The cost of traveling is pretty high. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why live games are softer.
Cool, man. So we're gonna go in like a time machine and go back, and we're gonna talk about some things that have happened in your career. And this round 2 template has been set up to talk about some of your most favorite, least favorite sessions. And the question that we start out with is, who is your biggest influence in becoming a poker professional and why?
Probably would have been Isaac Barron or Mike McDonald. Just watching all of their content on card runners in the early days was really exciting. they were like some of the only people that I connected with had a mathematical understanding of the game. Were just like very good instructors. They were young. I aspired to be like them. They were making big money when I was in college, and my next best opportunity to make income would have been at like $15 an hour.
Yeah, I remember Card Runners has a very near and dear place in my own heart, seeing like the Cole Souths and the Brian Townsend videos back in the day. It was like the first time seeing people doing like a play and explain at like 1K and L, and it was like, holy shit, like it was insane.
Yeah. They're like little entrepreneurs, right? They ran up bankrolls from like $50 to $1 million in a few years. It's just very exciting, very, very exciting space. And and it was fun. Poker's fun too. So,
oh, for sure. And just hearing thought processes of people who are playing on like such a high level was just really, really amazing for the first time. And you mentioned Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure Cole South is retired from poker. And
that's right.
Yeah,
and so is Mike McDonald actually. So both.
And they both like Bitcoin, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Timex is a huge bull and has been. He has a company now. I think he has a mining company.
Does he? I know he has like the pokershares.com, right?
No, he has a Bitcoin company as well.
Oh, Timex. That guy. I need to get that guy on the pod. Haven't had Timex on yet.
Yeah, he's great.
So tell me the story of your favorite session ever.
So favorite online session, I took like a second, some T-Coop 215 for like 130K. I think at the time it like increased my bankroll by like 40% or something. It's pretty epic.
Tell me about the day, like just
the early wins, the early big wins like that. Like obviously 215 large fields was at the top of my bankroll at the time, but the early wins for 6 figures or high 5 figures just does so much for your future earning potential. Like it's much more than just that raw amount, because as a poker player or as a good poker player, you should be saving most of that money and just injecting that into your bankroll so you can move up slowly. So it's not winning 100K. It's not just winning 100K, but it also increases your annual expectation for like the next 5 years. So making sure you have scores like that early on in a career is monumental. Like if you look at like Charlie Carroll's career, I think he like final tabled the Sunday Million twice within a short time period, and he was grinding low stakes before that. I mean, when you have a score like that and then you use bankroll management after, you can guarantee yourself success, or you can increase the frequency at which you're going to stay in the industry and have a solid career. So just scores like that. And then I think like 3 months later, chopped the Super Tuesday. And prior to that, my highest bind was like a 200.
So tell me, somebody that's starting out playing MTTs, those scores are so valuable just down the line, right? Because your average buy-in goes up, which means your hourly goes up, assuming you have a positive ROI. How would you suggest somebody who's beginning their poker career with somewhat small bankroll trying to, manufacture one of these scores?
So the score will come along with studying, right? First, you have to have you just have to study a lot and prepare yourself. But the key is, when you have these scores, is to keep living the same way that you were living before and not overextending yourself. Saving and basically the return on your savings, I think, is understated in our industry. And you just have to be very aggressive with saving early on and keep costs low and expand buy-in size. I mean, it's very important to get in the large field fish events on Sunday. Like the 109s on Sunday, the 215s on Sunday are incredibly easy to beat, but the bankroll to get there is not. So that's my advice: is just be super, super aggro with saving when you're starting out. As your annual income gets much larger, then you can be a little bit looser. But especially when you're starting out, you just have to be aggro with saving. And that goes with life in general, right? Like all capital that you have should have a nice return. There's so many different investments that Even the stock market is averaging like 8 or 9% a year. So just having savings and gaining return off of savings, it works the same way in poker.
How would you structure it if like you were starting over and you had 0 Bitcoins and $10,000 in cash? Like what would be your
$10,000 in cash?
Yeah.
I'm playing MTT, mass tabling, small stakes MTTs, studying very hard, working 50, 60 hours a week, and using primedope.com calculator to calculate variance. Inundate myself in study groups so I stay involved and keep it interesting, keep costs low. You probably, if you're mobile, you probably want to live in a city like Vegas or Florida where living expenses are relatively low. And then you also have the option of playing live when games are good. Yeah, all of that. Getting on good sites, make sure you're networking. The value of your network is so important in every industry, but especially in poker, it can open doors for you, right? Getting in the right games or meeting the right affiliate that'll give you high rake back, putting you on the right sites, getting backing if you need it. Just make sure to put a lot of effort into your personal relationships and have a lot of energy, even if someone reaches out to you and you don't necessarily want to talk to them that much, just be as helpful as you can and just do it with a smile on your face, even if it's exhausting. And you get in the routine of doing that, and over time, it pays off.
I remember in our first conversation, you were talking about making spreadsheets and helping people out, just expecting nothing in return and building your network as you were coming up and how valuable that was to you, right?
I'll tell you what, it's paying off. It's really paying off. I've met a lot of great people over the years and developed relationships with these people. And when these people need to hire people in the poker industry, they're going to reach out to their close friends who they've established rapport with. Like, you're not going to be, I think fewer and fewer jobs are being hired out to people that are turning in resumes and applying like online. I think, jobs in the modern business economy are being handed out to people, friends of friends, just people that you've developed relationships with over the years. Maybe these people are, less qualified for the position, but that their ethic is high and their energy is high, and they can bridge that gap with other values. As for me, like, I had a stable, and I can tell you right now, like, you can't really tell anything over an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of interviews. You have to work with people over a consistent basis over months to figure out like what their values are and how they think about life and their work ethic and their good behaviors, or their things that they're consistently doing well and things that they're not. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, like those relationships, even in like private coaching, right? Where you do 10 sessions with somebody. It just takes time to get to know them, to understand
It really does.
What to expect.
Yeah, so if you can make that process as least costly for the other person as possible, that'll benefit you in the long run. And by least costly, I just mean like make it enjoyable. Instead of an hour conversation on the phone asking them about their life, you're going out to dinner, you're going on a cool like expedition, you're going ATVing in a forest, like
bonding, right?
Yeah, but just putting yourself in a fun situation to get to know someone rather than to the traditional like show me how you did in college and what you learned and write this essay. Like I don't want to deal with any of that.
Right. Yeah. Plus you get to have fun the other way too, which is a nice perk.
Yeah. Yeah. So some people call it organic, building relationships organically. That's one way to see it.
You mentioned a stable. Are you still doing said stable? Is that still part of your life?
Yeah. So I had a stable last year, and I ended up giving that stable to my friends at Standard Backing, the guys that I kept. And that is because my hourly was so much higher doing other projects. So I still have a good relationship with all of the guys that I had when I passed the stable off. But unfortunately, no, I'm not managing that anymore. It was a ton of work, a lot of personal coaching, a lot of one-on-ones, group discussion on Discord. Obviously, I have to keep my game sharp, producing good content, so I give them good value. and I was managing it all alone. And then I also had other ventures as well. I was playing myself, and I was, I'm a liquidity provider for a lot of American games.
Tell me what does
also,
that mean too? The liquidity provider for a lot of American games.
Yeah, so just helping people get funds quickly and efficiently for really low margins when they need it.
For what kind of games we talking about?
For everything that you can possibly think of, any type of wallet online or cash in Vegas. Going to Seminole Hard Rock in Miami, in a week from now, and I'm gonna have 40 regs asking me if they can have money for the main event for the 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th bullet. So just helping people get funding for buy-ins, safely and efficiently.
Yeah, so people don't have to fly across the country with like $100K in their backpack.
Yeah, or deal with Bank of America, on a Saturday at 2 p.m. and then trying to project how many bullets they're going to fire, and then 25K looks really good, so we need a bullet for that now, but that wasn't projected.
That makes sense. And I'm assuming crypto is a large part of that, because that seems like the easiest way.
Yeah, Bitcoin helps.
Bitcoin does help
a lot. We've all adopted that, for payment processing, low cost, fast.
I don't know why if you're in the poker space, if you're listening to this right now, please learn about Bitcoin and learn about crypto, because it is so easy. It makes your life so easy as when it comes to like moving money around and getting money on sites. And, like James just said, getting money while you're traveling, right?
The utility. I mean, and we didn't even mention the like compounded annual growth rates, but yeah, just the utility of the currency is nice.
Yeah. And it takes like 20 minutes to like get a rough understanding of what's going on,
Oh, that too. Yeah.
All right. So tell me, we mentioned your favorite poker session, right? The early victory, early 6-figure victory. What about least favorite? Do you have any memories? If you could like walk the listener through a horrible day in the life of James Romero.
Just torching off tons to taxes. Like, honestly, that's the worst one. I remember sending in a tax bill for like 130K one year, and it's just horrible, man.
Feels bad.
Just like what I said about having a big 6-figure score, propelling your bankroll so you can play higher. As soon as you send that tax check in, your projected annual income is now diminished substantially. That was really bad. Just general taxes is, I think, probably haunting for everyone.
Probably on your mind, because we're like, as we're recording this, we're 5 days away from tax day.
Yeah. I get mine done way early, but yeah. But as for like a single bad session, I don't fire really hard on any specific buy-ins. I don't like take tons of risk with my buy-ins. So there's not like one session comes out to mind. I mean, I guess like bubbling a final table sometime, but
what a life!
Win every tournament I play. I'm just kidding.
What a life, James.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably busting out of some main event deep. I don't remember.
No memorable bad days at the office for Mr. Romero. Life is good in the sun. What about pots won? So when you think of pots won, do you have any pots that like spring to mind that were very gratifying?
Yeah, so like just winning huge flips, like deep in the Bellagio main. I remember a couple huge flips. I had this hand versus Richard Seymour. There was 12 left in the Bellagio main.
NFL.
Yeah.
Pro. Richard Seymour.
Yeah. And we both had massive stacks, and I was all in on. I shoved all in on the turn, and I had a combo draw, and I had the confidence to talk him into folding Ace King on Ace XX.
Ooh.
I forgot specifically what I said, but he was like trying to get information out of me. And this is obviously like the most nervous I've, probably ever been in my life. This is, I'm just 2 million up top. There's 12 left. I have a huge stack. The equity of my stack is worth like 400 or 500K. And this is my first live 10K. And, and I'm all in on the turn and I have a draw and he's like talking to me about my hand. And I like very confidently, anyone else would be shaking. And I very confidently like asked him some question I would only ask if I had 2 pair plus, and then smirked after, I know I got you. And I don't know how I came up with that moment of genius and confidence mix, but it was just amazing. It was 75, I would say 75% of his stack was all in or was in the pot already. So he was getting 6-1 on a call or something. And he ended up folding ace king on ace XX and there was no flush or straight possibilities. So that was super epic.
Yeah,
And,
that's incredible.
He ended up finding out somehow that I was bluffing because I showed someone behind me, and forever every time he sees me at a live thing, I just get mad respect for him. That's some nasty shit, bro.
It is, man. I can tell you, as somebody that's played a lot of live cash in my life, being able to feel comfortable enough to speak and do it in a way that you don't fall apart, where it feels natural and confident, is very, very difficult when you're bluffing. It is very, very difficult.
Yeah, especially in those spots. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you're talking about a spot with $2 million up top. That's,
yeah.
Who knows? You just found it somewhere inside yourself and you just set it. And careful when you're playing against the crushers of the world and you're trying to get information through talking to them, because sometimes it doesn't work the way that you would like it to work.
So, John, you've used neutralized flop leads in the past 24 hours, correct?
Yeah, so I got basically the slide with all the info on it on Friday evening, and yesterday I played a session of 1KNL on Ignition and played one particular pot that I remember where a fish just donks flop turn river into me, and I ended up winning with a hand that I would have folded before looking at the slide, but I ended up winning a $400 pot instead, and the course is $99, so definitely paid for itself very, very quickly. And I think that'll be the case for even people that aren't playing as big as 5-10 no limit. I think this is a course that will very, very quickly pay for itself given how much more donking there is at lower stakes. And I think one of the most common questions I see asked in the Greatness Village Slack group is, what do donks mean? How do I deal with donk bets? I think that's got to be in the top 3 most frequently asked questions.
You ought to feel very excited when somebody donks into you, because some good things are about to happen.
You said you probably don't need anyone to teach the course, or you can just look at the slide and learn all the info yourself. I feel you, Brad, will have to be there, because I'm almost sure that anybody who looks at the slide won't believe it looking at what they're supposed to do, and we'll have to confirm with you that you didn't make a massive typo somewhere and that this is actually what they're supposed to do, because it's pretty shocking the optimal way to deal with fish donking into you on the flop is.
If you'd like to check out neutralize flop leads so that you're never again confused when a fish leads into you in a single raise pot, head to chasingpokergreatness.com/nuffle. That's chasingpokergreatness.com/NUFFLE. And now, back to the show.
All right, so what about pots lost? Any gut punches in pots lost?
Lost. Nothing really coming to mind.
Yeah, you just win them all. This guy.
They come to mind.
Could you tell me a poker lesson you've learned from a dark teacher? So this is a negative experience, a bit of wisdom.
Okay. Someone has taught me.
Yeah.
You're saying?
Sure. An experience that went poorly, but you learned a very valuable lesson out of it.
Can't really think of any either. Yeah, I kind of stay out of risky behavior, or I don't get myself in too many bad spots where negative stuff can happen. And as for stories, I mean, I had a good friend that did a 500K swap in Brussels a few months ago, and the bag that he was collecting was filled with counterfeit bills.
Oh shit!
$500,000 euro of counterfeit bills.
Wow, what happened?
That's a pretty bad one. It was just Bitcoin for cash swap in Brussels, and
it was counterfeit.
It was counterfeit bills. I had never heard of that before. I mean, it's very rare to hear about counterfeit stories, and then you throw in the fact it was 500K euro, and the receiver accepted the euro for cash, so he didn't even realize it. I mean, he probably checked the bills, and they looked legitimate enough. 500K, that's a lot of counterfeit. And they never got the money. Obviously, you can't
Bitcoin's hardcore. That's the thing about Bitcoin. Once you press the button, it's gone.
Yeah.
Man,
this was a major trader. It wasn't like a recreational trader.
Yeah. And so the lesson to learn there is if you're
lots of verification always, but I'm always really good with that. I always do my due diligence. I know everybody. I know who who everyone's backer is, best friends are,
You're just on top of it, man. You're just on top of it.
I read a lot. All I do is spend all my days every day just like in chats with poker players.
Not surprising.
15 chats with 600 plus people, and I read everything. So
not surprising that you've had so much success in the poker world. You're very, very prepared. What would you consider a weakness in your poker game? Or a weakness that you had in your poker game, and then what steps did you take to overcome said weakness?
I remember I used to try to play like Fedor early days a lot, and Fedor used to play like super aggro, and he only got away with it because people were so bad at the time. But over the years, that style became less and less profitable. I don't think I adjusted as much, and then I went through a very, very nitty phase. And now I'm somewhere in between. But
that's a funny two phases: super aggro to nitty.
Yeah, well, I've matured, and you learn more, and you want to try to play properly. But yeah, I mean, the gap between the great players and the rest of the regs used to be so large that you could get away with just playing wider ranges and playing more like a freestyle.
And I'm guessing,
but that just isn't true anymore. So you have to adapt.
What's changed over the last few years?
I mean, all of these solvers, there's just so much more accuracy in every part of the game tree.
Basically, more knowledge, high-powered tools that.
Yeah, even like my students are they work so hard on pre-flop ranges, and then a lot of them have PIO now or post-flop solvers, and they study really hard. They have big Excel sheets out, and they're just always reading and thinking about hands. It didn't used to be like this. Back in the day, Timex was like the only person who was like integrating math into poker. Like people weren't even like talking about like pot odds and frequency of like correct decision making and percentages. Like poker wasn't talked about like that. It was more of like this like philosophical thought. There weren't a lot of sharp, hardworking young kids in the game. It was kind of more like, if this was your hobby, then you turn pro. That's it.
It's funny, the whole pot odds thing, because I tweeted the other day that making bad calls shouldn't give you nightmares, but making bad folds should. And it's just funny, like even talking about the Richard Seymour hand, right, where he's getting like 6-1 on the turn. It's like, man, you got to have like you got to have 14% equity to call. Like you can't fold.
Yeah, right.
And really, that's how the game of poker is meant to be played. Like because of the pot odds model, you're supposed to call a ton because you're always getting a good price.
Yeah, and if you're not constantly studying, the question becomes, does he have it or does he not have it?
Yeah, binary.
Yeah.
It's more like, do I win if I call the river here more than 25% of the time? Okay, I do, so I call and expect to lose a lot.
Yeah.
What do you think's a common assumption people make about their poker careers that you think they should spend more time thinking about?
Future EV. Like, looking at where they think the industry will be in like 5 or 10 years, and then making decisions about where they're placing their career based on that. For instance, like a cash game player playing 2.5 or 5.10, just grinding out an hourly. I think that's a bit short-sighted, and in those games have a very low barrier to entry, and I think the hourly is probably low and will get lower over the years. Whereas I think if you get into tournaments, I think the opposite. It's a high barrier to entry, so we can expect less pros and less people treating poker like a business and running like a profitable model in the long run. I think that people need to, just be more, look at the greater picture and try to position their careers a little bit differently than they do.
Where could they go to research the bigger picture so that they can kind of create their vision for themselves?
I guess reading forums online, talking to friends, trying to think about what ROIs are in tournaments, how many buy-ins you can get in a year. You can use sites like Hendon Mob to look at how many live tournaments there are in the US in a year, internationally in a year, how many are realistic to be able to play. Same thing with online games. I think that like right now, obviously we're in a huge boom, but like, what does the future of online look like in 10 years? Is that where you want to be? Basically just like projecting future earnings for your career, I think is overlooked. People are just happy to put in the hours at, whatever they're doing, take their hourly wage, and then don't think anything past that.
Yeah.
Much like you would see in any traditional business industry.
Yeah, for sure. And becoming more well-rounded too, just exploring tournaments, exploring cash, exploring PLO, because the better you get at more games, the more opportunity there is. And the less at risk you are if your game takes a hit, like online cash, for instance.
Yeah. So game selection. Yeah. There's a lot more than specifically solvers and then, cash games.
For sure. And you mentioned traveling around playing tournaments. Like, what do you think is an expected yearly earn for somebody because like it feels to me very, very difficult to travel and play like 1K to 5K tournaments and pay for expenses over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks. But maybe I'm wrong.
Traveling in tournaments. I have spreadsheets of this. I'm not going to pull them out now because it take too long. But so I would want to position myself in Vegas. I think it's completely doable. That's the short answer. If I'm going to do it, if I'm going to become a live tournament pro, which I think is completely fine, and I think most people are capable of doing it over enough time. You want to live in Vegas. Flights to LA, flights to Florida are really cheap, and those will just be your 3 main cities. I think over a year you could probably put in $400K in buy-ins if you're turning out like a 35% ROI, which is definitely on the lower side, and includes tons of like re-entries, late entries. Maybe playing a little bit looser at the beginning of live 1Ks and 2Ks. The tournaments on the lower end of your buy-in schedule, a decent salary starts to become achievable. You probably have to sell action for the larger events, which means you need some networking involved in your business model. And then, I think it can grow over the years. And then you can supplement your income with other things. Maybe you play cash games 2 nights a week, Friday and Saturday night in Vegas. And the rest of your time you spent either studying or working on investments, learning about the real estate or stock market, making sure you're saving adequately. The key component here, like I was talking about earlier, is just saving, like making sure that you have investments and saving money. You can't be, especially in poker, like in the traditional business world. Okay, like if you want to spend 100% of your income, I think it's stupid, but it's, you're probably still going to get by. In poker, if you do that, you're just never going to make it. So it requires other skills, and you should be studying how to get better at these other skills.
And basically, you want to get to the point to where you can play games that are big enough or tournaments that are big enough to where you have a really good yearly salary so that you can save more money, right? You don't want to just be getting by.
Right.
You want to be above that threshold significantly. And the only way to get there is by playing stakes that allow you to, increase your yearly salary.
A lot of people have problems putting in a lot of hours per week if they don't have a boss telling them that they have to. Like I have a lot of live pro friends that just they work like 15 hours a week. I don't understand.
Beware the freedom,
being
right?
Disciplined, yeah, being disciplined, making sure that your your romantic or family lifestyle matches the poker lifestyle. You can't have 5 kids if you're going to be traveling a lot. Yeah.
Make good decisions. It's just basically make good decisions, be smart. You mentioned something that piqued my interest. You said 35% ROI is on the low end. What's the high end for these live MTTs?
I really don't have the data for that, and it's also going to be highly dependent on who we're talking about. Are we talking about an average Vegas reg?
Let's talk about you.
That lives there, or
you were higher echelon, medium echelon, and then lower.
I don't have good answers for you here. I think it would be like someone you'd want to talk to is like a stable owner, online stable owner that deals with variance more, but it's high.
It's high.
I watch all of the media content. I watch all the Instagram stories of all these live guys playing the tournaments from week to week. I love looking at the player pools, and it's all fish. I mean, we're 65% complete fish. And when I mean fish, I mean just being like ESPN dads, just people who barely play poker. Like they've just seen it on TV. They work a normal job and they play 10 tournaments a year, 20 tournaments a year, like a Vegas Friday night 2-5 game. Like those are the types of people that are showing up for your 3Ks. So the industry is very, very good at 6-7 fish a table in these low stakes games. So I think ROIs can be insane. I don't know specifically what percentages, but and this goes back to my conversation I was just talking about with cash games in Vegas versus tournaments in Vegas. It's just like night and day. You need to be in the right spots. And I think too many people are grinding 5 and 5-10 cash.
Yeah, I mean, it's only anecdotal for me, but I can say that like playing the few tournaments that I've played, it was astonishing. Like the 1,500 or the 3Ks, just messing around because I don't really play a ton of tournaments. I play mostly cash.
It's wild.
It was crazy. I was like, what the hell? There's like 5 lippers and like we're 8 hours into the day and people are like still lipping from under the gun and stuff. It was the most bizarre thing that I've experienced.
And then they try to chop 9 ways the final tables and stuff. It's a completely different animal, live tournaments.
Yeah, the dude sitting to the left of me, I'll never forget because it was like a WSOP circuit event. I was only playing because I was visiting and connecting with some friends from home games that I hadn't seen in years. And the dude on my left was limping, very nice guy, but limping very often. And we were chatting and he's like, yeah, I've got like 4 circuit rings. And I was like, what? Like,
yeah,
it's kind of dumbfounding.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely doable playing just tournaments for a living. I mean, a lot of people are doing it. A lot of regs that don't study that much are making decent livings, doing it. They almost all live in Vegas.
Yeah, I think Vegas is probably got to be the spot, right? Just cheap.
You have to live there. It's so cheap. It's a good lifestyle. Taxes are low. You always have access to poker. I mean, there's been poker tournaments here running daily in Vegas for past 2 months. And a lot of good ones.
Have you been to Texas any? Do you have any experience there?
I had some students from Texas. And I've driven through there, not for poker, but I think it has a really booming poker economy right now. And I wouldn't be surprised to see legalization in the next 5 years, 10 years. There's just so much demand for poker in Texas. Yeah, so bigger casinos, I think is something that it is legal to play in these small card rooms. But I think we could see bigger casinos is what I meant, more something like a Wynn or an Encore or something like that. But yeah, they have a series next week. My friend was telling me about 1400 1 mil. Played at a bunch of different. Day one is like at a bunch of different like little small card rooms, and then they all meet up for day two in some city. But the private games are huge in Texas.
I mean, the public games are pretty big. Like
Public games are pretty big.
Yeah. Why would somebody play in a private game, I guess, when they have access to public games? That's always something that kind of confuses me.
I wouldn't do it. Well, the thought is that you're playing with friends. You get to play much higher stakes than you would in public. If you don't like people, they don't get the invite to the game, so the game's always just going to be run better. That being said, I'd be very, very worried about private games.
A lot of things can go wrong.
I would never play private games, but I know a lot of people who do. So
yeah, I mean, I've played them, and it's been more bad than good, I think, over the years. Just having to chase money, not getting paid, and just all kinds of dumb shenanigans when you're not at a place where you have any kind of oversight or power.
Yeah.
What's a poker related thing other people rave about that hasn't worked for you?
I mean, private games is one of them. I'm trying to think of what else. I guess just next question. I can't really think of anything.
People rave about private games. I keep hearing, like, I've been out of the live world for like the last 6 years. So like
more often not than yes, but there are some people who make a living out of big private games.
Yeah.
Or like hosting a private game inside of a casino, I think is completely fine. And I think a lot of people have been able to do that very successfully. I don't know anything about doing that. Or I don't really think that I could put one together for high stakes, but
yeah, but the people that could, and that's the power of the network, right?
Yeah.
What are some things you wish you said no to more often in the poker world?
Time, just being more selfish with time over the years. Not doing anything on the weekends, like actually just staying in Friday through Sunday was not easy when I was younger, especially starting out. You're in college, all your friends are going out on the weekends. But being smarter with time, sleep management, bankroll management, I could have done better. Being more aggressive with networking when I was younger, that's kind of a trait or habit I picked up over the years, but I think I could have done that. It also helped me to not network when I was younger sometimes, because I kind of had all of the cutting edge information, and my win rates were really high, and I kind of kept my win rates high and kept my information private, and I think that helped me out. But as my career has changed into more live tournaments and meeting people and developing more business connections, that's kind of changed. So yeah.
So it made sense at the time to keep. I mean, keeping information private when it gives you an edge is not the worst thing to do.
Right.
What are some things you wish you said yes to more often that maybe you didn't?
I think taking every traveling opportunity you can when you're starting out on your MTT circuit grind, like especially if you want to play internationally, even if the EV of the event that you're going to is going to be very low or almost zero because of travel costs, you should just take every single opportunity you can to travel to international events, pretty much. Any live events, really. Like, even if you think your EV is very small, just showing up, putting in the volume, making sure, every day you're thinking about playing poker, thinking about poker, studying poker, and just you're maintaining the mindset that you're in the grind of poker is important. Just like consistency, just showing up to work every day. Even if it's low EV.
It's a little bit counter to the good decisions earlier, right? Like, there's inherent value in just traveling, right? And the new experiences and all of that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. When I was younger, I was playing online. Now I'm playing live.
Yeah. I mean, we all have seasons in our lives too. And as we get older and gain more responsibility, maybe we meet someone, we get married, maybe we have kids or a family, and like you lose those opportunities, right? Like you said, if you have 5 kids, it's pretty hard to travel, 9 months out of every single year.
Right.
Have you ever strongly believed something about poker only to reverse course later on? And if so, what led to that change?
I mean, countless things. And it's always talking to very smart people around me that have studied more than me and deferring to them. But, everything from pre-flop aggression, pre-flop nittiness, post-flop aggression. I'm very quick to adapt in everything. Investments, you name it. I think it's people are afraid to admit that they're wrong and change and are very rigid-minded. And I think it's very detrimental to anyone's career, especially in poker. New information comes out so fast.
It's good being wrong. This is my philosophy. It's like when you're wrong, you learn something and you grow. The person who's right, they don't gain anything. You should actively challenge your assumptions and challenge your beliefs, because when you're wrong, you are better for it.
Yeah, keep people around you that are going to keep you honest too. You don't want friends that just agree with everything you say blindly. Make mistakes quickly. Just don't be afraid to make mistakes, but just get through it fast.
That's a thing that serves you well just in the poker world too. Just don't be afraid of mistakes, make them and learn from them and move forward. Most of the, some of the most valuable lessons that I've learned in poker stem from just totally fucking up some really big spots and then thinking about them afterwards.
Yeah.
You mentioned the future landscape of poker at the beginning of this. Anything you want to say about what you foresee to be the future landscape of poker?
Yeah, I think online will slowly die over the years, but I think everyone agrees on that. Over the long term, right? I don't mean short term. And then I also, kind of think the same thing about cash games. We talked about this a bunch, but on the other side, I think tournaments will always be huge. I don't think there's going to be enough good pros in the game that can maintain, $1 million bankrolls to play, to manage the swings of the typical tournament schedule from year to year. Not only do you have to manage swings of poker variants, but then you also have to pay yourself your life expenses. If you're spending $100K a year, that's guaranteed negative, basically a guaranteed 100K downswing a year.
And
so
you make some risky investments or do some silly things, stake the wrong people, and all of a sudden you're in trouble.
Yeah, or even if you make smart investments, the stock market's going to go down at some point, 40%. So I just don't think that this industry will ever be efficient, ever. So I'm super bullish on the future of tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a world where tournaments disappear. Cash games with botting, RTA, these kind of things, I mean, these are possible existential threats. I think live cash game will just be fine, probably forever too.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So we'll wrap up. And do you have any projects you're working on right now that are near and dear to your heart that you'd like to talk about?
Not really. I'm excited to get back to live poker, starting with the series here in September. Not any huge projects. Researching a lot of decentralized finance right now, which is an Ethereum project. That's it. Nothing else.
And you're going to be, as soon as you can, you'll be jumping back. Are you going to jump back into the high rollers, the big ones?
Yeah, everything.
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 Cool, man. I'm sure you're chomping at the bit to get back in there battling in the high rollers.
Yeah. Good games, big prize pools, nice locations, good traveling, good food. Yeah.
Can't lose. Cool, man. James, it's been great having you on the show. Final question will be, if the Chasing... let me try that again. If the Chasing Poker Greatness audience wants to learn more about you, where can they go on the World Wide Web?
You can follow me on every media platform. Just search my name, James Romero, or check out Jonathan Little's site, pokercoaching.com, for good training content.
Yeah, I make stuff for them too. So pokercoaching.com,
right, cool.
It's a good place. Cool. James, have a good rest of your day, man. Really appreciate your time and your energy.
Thank you, Brad. Talk to you later.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Chasing Poker Greatness. If you have yet to subscribe to the show, please take a second to do so on Apple Podcasts or wherever your favorite place to listen to podcasts may be. For more content from me, Coach Brad, please visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/enhanceyouredge, and I'll see you next time.